live video. It's been a few days since I was on Facebook and like posting and doing all those kinds of things. And the reason for that is just because I needed to take a couple days off and just focus on life and play pickleball, play in my pickleball tournament that I had this weekend. Um, just kind of felt like a little cooped up in the house from just being in all the time. So now that I've gone on my little pickleball binge and all that stuff, I'm ready to get back and talk to you about all things life and education. So, before we get started, I wanted to again emphasize my training that's going to be coming up on the generational differences, and that's going to be specifically related to communication and actual real life scenarios. And the reason why you would most definitely want to sign up for this training, well, one of the many reasons why, is because one way or another, this issue of generational differences and communication, it's already affecting you. It's affecting all of us, whether it's in a personal life, our professional life, or what have you, right? And so from this training, you can learn some additional insights that essentially will enhance the knowledge that you already have or you're able to access, and it will help you navigate some, potentially serious and complex situations. So you can go ahead and register for that. The link is in the chat. So let me know what you think. And if you have any questions, you can send me a DM. Okay, so today's live webinar is about taking risks. And the reason for this is because I was playing in a pickleball tournament this weekend, and I just kind of was reflecting on some of the principles that I learned about that, and they most definitely transfer, those principles that I was thinking about, they most definitely transfer to our professional lives as teachers. So here goes. All right, principle number one is that, in the game or in a classroom or wherever you are, your mind is going to do its absolute best to try to protect you from pain, right? And what that means is that under moments of pressure or moments where you're scared, you are going to become more averse to risk taking, right? And you could even, right, for some of us, you might even feel temporarily sort of paralyzed by the situation because your mind is trying to protect you from harm, right? Or what it perceives to be as pain or harm, okay? And so what a lot of people are going to do in their classrooms in terms of education when it comes to risk taking is that they're going to play it safe, right? And we've all been there. And in our line of work, this idea of the mind sort of protecting itself from harm or criticism or something that it feels might hurt us, that's going to affect both of us as teachers and our students, right? So, for example, probably one of the most common averse risk-taking situations that I've seen personally is that, kind of during a high-stakes observation, you as a teacher might feel the pressure to only call on certain kids in your class, right? Because the administrator is watching. And you're only going to call on those certain kids because you might feel confident that they have the right answer. And so to essentially ensure that the lesson goes smoothly, you specifically call on these kids and only these kids and not the other ones because you want to make sure that you're going to get the answer that you want, right? And honestly, even if it's not on an observation day, the temptation to do that is still strong, right? To, constantly have the same hands going up or to call on the same kids and let the other ones kind of just sit back and passively absorb the information, right? And I know that there's some fear attached to that as well, okay? And it's not just about getting the answer wrong or the student not knowing what the answer is or whatever it is that you're doing. Sometimes it's actual fear in the sense that you're not sure how a student is going to respond. Maybe it's fear that they're going to come back at you with some kind of sarcastic answer or what have you. And so if you have questions about how you can respond to students who do things like that, just send me a DM and we'll go, I'll help you work through that. Okay? So for students, okay, so just switching the angle here. For students, the pressure to be like everybody else and to be average, at least, in the culture where I am, it's for me, it's a serious force to be reckoned with. It's just so ingrained in our culture to, and excuse my, strong verbiage here, but it's so ingrained in our culture to despise people who are successful, right? It's like, how dare you win 5 championships in a row, or whatever. It's like people get mad a lot of times when people are successful, teams are successful, and those kinds of things, right? So it's ingrained in our culture to just kind of force everybody to be like everybody else, to come into the fold of mediocrity, essentially. And it's ingrained to, for a lot of, adolescents, to make fun of those other kids who do take risks and who do ask questions and things like that, right? And those kids who take risks, the bottom line is that they're doing things that, we ourselves wouldn't dream of doing, or other kids wouldn't dream of doing, because of fear of the social repercussions that come from that. So I kind of think of it like in a faculty meeting. You know how everybody always makes that joke that, when people say, oh, does anybody have any questions? And then everybody's ready to leave the meeting, and then there's always that one teacher that raises their hand and asks a question, right? I honestly, have to commend that teacher for doing that. Honestly, I love people who are like that, people who are different, people who are going to break the mold, because, the thing is that in many cases, maybe not all of the cases, but in many cases, that person is asking a question that we're all thinking, but we're too afraid to ask, right? So that whole thing of fear, and that pressure to be like everybody else and to conform is strong. Okay. So with that being said, I wanted to share 2 specific things that I do in my classroom to to combat that type of mentality, right? Of just pushing everybody to the middle, not being successful, and also to push the growth mindset model that I want in my class. So here are 2 specific things that I do. So the first thing is that when I give a whole group feedback based on information that I've collected from, a writing assignment, a test, a quiz, or whatever, I will show the questions and the answers that I've received, okay, to the questions that were commonly answered incorrectly or incompletely. And I'll say to the class, I'll ask them, I'll say, do you know why I'm showcasing these specific questions and these specific mistakes, right? And some students might answer, or they might just look at me, or whatever. Either way, it's fine. It makes no difference. Because what I will say to them is, it's because we collectively missed these questions as a group. We missed these questions as a group. Okay, and that phrase right there, that we miss these questions as a group, is what this does is it takes away the stigma from the individual and builds that growth mindset and the culture of error that I want in my classroom, right? And it kind of just does it not overtly, but kind of subtly, right? And then the next thing, the last thing, is that in my classroom, right, if I cold call on a student, okay, and the student might not be my most confident student in the classroom, and I know that they're not sure of, how to answer a question or whatever, okay, like what we talked about earlier with the high stakes moment with administration in the room. In that moment, when I call on a student, and within just, maybe a split second, that moment where I pick up on the fact that the student is unsure of their answer. And it doesn't matter if the student actually knows the answer or not. It's just the feeling of being unsure. As soon as I pick up on that feeling, what I'll say to the student is I'll say, take a risk if you're unsure. Okay? Take a risk if you're unsure. And what this does is it shows the student that no matter what the outcome is, right? And worst case scenario is that they're wrong, or they're totally off base, or they have no idea what to do. That's worst case scenario, okay? But the idea is that no matter what the outcome, they're going to overcome that. They're going to overcome that fear. Because no matter what, if they get it wrong, they're going to overcome it no matter what, because they took a risk. And they know that we're all going to be supportive of them, right? Because I'm not going to allow any sort of negative reaction to happen in my class. And if it does, I'm going to address it immediately and very firmly. And so for the student who answered, right, they're learning how to build confidence in themselves and to speak up, because confidence, as I learned, sort of from the tournament this weekend, is confidence doesn't come just from performance. Okay, so in school, it doesn't just come from getting A's or getting all the answers right all the time, or at least it shouldn't, right? Confidence shouldn't come from that. Okay, but true confidence, in my opinion, comes from knowing that, even if I make a mistake, I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to keep on going undeterred. That for me is what confidence truly is. So anyway, just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that today. And again, go ahead and sign up for my training today. And it's about the generational differences in communication. It's excellent. So if you guys want some insight in terms of how to communicate between millennials, Gen Z, parents, Gen X, or millennial parents, because there's a huge difference, a huge disparity between millennial parents and Gen X parents in terms of their mindset, what they're looking for, what they want to hear, right? All those types of things. So let me know if you have questions about that. You can send me a DM, and I will talk to you soon. So I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.